So I'm going to show you a very standard line of play that you can do with your Salamangreat deck, assuming you open 2 or 3 pieces of engine, and this should provide enough disruption for you to slow down the opponent and stop them from comboing so that you can win on the following turn. So to start off, if you have a circle, you probably always want to go for the Gazelle if you don't already have it, especially since, again, this is the budget version, you're playing Lady Debugs instead of the new Salamangreat of Fire, which is an ultra rare. So because we have another Salamangreat monster we're able to summon, we're not going to use the Lady Debug. We used the Foxy with no effect on summon so that we can link into Bailing, search field spell, trigger the Gazelle to summon, and dump the Rage because we already have Counter Trap. Now we're going to activate Sanctuary, and that will allow us to summon back the Foxy by discarding the Spinny here. And then we're going to link off first into the Sunlight Wolf so that when we bring back the Foxy, we bring it back to the zone that the wolf points to, which will allow us to recur a Salamangreat monster in our graveyard back to our hand. So we bring back the Gazelle, which is follow-up for turn 3. Then we're going to link off Sunlight Wolf with itself with the effect of the Sanctuary, and use the effect of Wolf to recur that spell that trap that we dumped into the graveyard with the Gazelle in the Salamangreat Rage. Now we're going to activate Spinny, and because we're able to have 2 monsters on board in addition to our Sunlight Wolf, which we need to keep on board in order to keep our Rage and Roar active. So this Rage will represent a pop 2 on the field because the Sunlight Wolf is a link 2 that was summoned with its own material, so we can use the second effect of Rage. And then we have Roar for the counter of anything, Omni Negate basically, right? But because we had 2 more Salamangreats, we're going to be able to extend into a Splash Mage, bring out the Foxy again, and then link off into a Heat Soul, which represents a draw 2, draw 1 during our turn, and then draw 1 during the opponent's turn. We draw into a Hand Trap and a Veiler, that's really good. So when we count our disruptions, we've got a Pop 2, an Omni Negate, and a Monster Negate. And we're going to draw again for Heat Soul, which draws us into another disruption. That's what Heat Soul does. So now we have an additional Ash Blossom disruption. The opponent here reveals that they're on Endymion, which is a popular deck in this event, but we're going to be able to shut that down, the scales that is, with the Rage. So you're going to get a lot of value off of this Rage here. They tried to pop my Sunlight Wolf with the Afterburners here, which is normally a good play, but I'm able to save my Sunlight Wolf by banishing the Bailings, and this will keep my Rage and Roar online. You want to make sure you do your best to protect this, since, like I said, your traps are basically dependent upon it. So if it gets Change of Hearted or Talanced or something taken, that would be really bad. But again, you want to use up these traps if you can early so that you don't play into those kind of cards. If you do fear Change of Heart, I mean, it's not really too meta again. You could link this with a Transcode Talker to make it untargetable, which again is just a super rare, so you should be able to craft this no problem. Regardless though, on the second scale there, I'm going to go ahead and use the Rage to pop both of the scales the opponent has so that they can't do any Pendulum Extension right here. They're going to use an Into the Void. I'm going to let them draw the 1, which is going to force them to play out their entire hand. They have a second Into the Void, and this one I will Ash Blossom, and I still have my Omni Negate. They have 2 cards left in hand, and I'm like, if they're both scales that they can summon off of, like, it's not even that impactful because they can only summon 1 out of the extra deck, but it's an Allure of Darkness, and I'm just like, yeah, let me just counter trap that right now. And you can see here we force the opponent's entire hand, and we still have the effect Veiler if they had a normal summon to do a 1-card combo, but it's not enough, and they end up scooping it up. In my last Master Duel video, which is linked in the description, I talked about using a Salamangreat core for the Fusion X Link Festival as a really nice budget option, because if you invest 1500 gems on 3 copies of the Burning Spirit structure deck, you basically got everything you needed to make Salamangreat. And this has worked for me across a few different accounts, and I've grinded my gems for this Fusion X Link Festival very, very easily. Depending on what you have, you can just throw in whatever boss monsters you got. So in my case, I put an Access Code, I put in an Underworld Goddess, and I even have an Unchained Abomination. And what I'm going to show you is a matchup where I had to get a little creative in using some of these alternative boss monsters. If you're not using some of the fire boss monsters, which are basically the Raging Phoenix or the Pyro Phoenix. So this is the new one from May 2024, and the Pyro Phoenix is the other older one, but it is still decent because when you go second, if you link this off with itself, you can destroy all cards your opponent controls. But anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at some matches on how effective this deck can be in the Fusion X Link Festival. So in this particular matchup, you're going to see our budget version of Salamangreat go up against the opponent's non-budget version, and thankfully we won the coin flip, so we opted to go first. Because I was too slow in turning my toggle on before the draw phase passed, I had to use Salamangreat Circle in the main phase, which does make me prone to Duel and Lockbird. but it's okay because the opponent ended up ashing the circle anyways. So now we're going to have to lock ourselves into fire in order to play Salamangreat of Fire. So I did talk about this, and the Salamangreat of Fire is definitely not a budget option because it is an ultra rare from the new pack. But if you have one because you opened the pack, you know, keep it and put it in this deck. It is very good because by linking off the Salamangreat of Fire instead of like a Lady Debug, this will trigger the Gazelle that you bring to your hand with the Salamangreat of Fire. So it's kind of like a one-card starter, better than the Cyber's Lady Debug because it'll require you to use your field spell, Salamangreat Sanctuary, in order to link off the Balinks to trigger the Gazelle if you use the Lady Debug, since that is not a Cyber's monster. So off the Gazelle, we pitch the Counter Trap in order to set up the Bring Back off of the Sunlight Wolf. And we're just going to have to pitch the Spinny, unfortunately, in order to just bring it back and trigger the Sunlight Wolf to grab back Gazelle. Now we're going to use the Sanctuary to bring out the Sunlight Wolf again in order to reset the Counter Trap off of the ability when we summon a Salamangreat monster using its own link material. We reset this, which means it does get banished when we use it, and then we end up bringing back Circle off of the inherent ability of Wolf to bring back a spell. We set Imperm and we pass. The opponent starts off with a normal summon Gazelle, and so because they opted to use a normal summon on this, I was like, I'll just, instead of Imperming it, I'll just negate and destroy it and put them on you need another extender after you've used up your normal summon in order to play the game. So this should be essentially an easy win. Let's see what the opponent is on. So Counter Trap goes through, destroys everything. They do have the extender in the Sanctuary, pitching the Spinny, but we have the Ash Blossom. So Spinny does need a Salamangreat on the opponent's side of the field in order to come back. So unless they have one, they are done. Oh man, unfortunately they have talents to take. So that's really unfortunate. And then they have the perfect final extender in the Weasel. So they're going to go ahead and bring out Balinks, and because the Sunlight Wolf is in this slot, it will trigger for them to bring back a Salamangreat card. Why did I opt to use Circle here again? I think there was a reason. I don't remember what it was. Maybe there wasn't. Could they have gone for something that would stop me? Oh yes, I used Circle here because if they opted to bring back their Ash Blossom with the Sunlight Wolf, they could Ash my Circle again. That's why I used it, I do remember, yes. So they don't end up doing that though. They bring back, I think it was Gazelle, yeah. And then they bring back Spinny, and Promethean Princess is one card we don't have because it's another ultra rare. I would craft this though, if I were you. Like, it is really, really strong in the Salamangreat deck, and you're going to see exactly how. And then here is the Raging Phoenix on the opponent's side. We are able to trigger our Gazelle because our Sunlight Wolf went to the graveyard when the opponent linked it off. But they aren't able to get Field Spell up, so they're not able to relink the Raging Phoenix to get a Salamangreat Search. The unfortunate thing is that they do have the Promethean Princess in the graveyard, which means that when I special summon, they can pop a card on my field and bring back the Promethean Princess, and that'll trigger their Gazelle to dump a card as well, giving them further extension plays if I can't KO them this turn. So we're going to normal summon Lady Debug and then link off into Balinks. There is a world, given my extra deck, that I might be able to go into Underworld Goddess, but because Promethean Princess does target, it will wipe out the Underworld Goddess, so if it targets it, so there's no point in bringing that out right now. They do indeed pop their Raging Phoenix in order to bring back out the Promethean Princess and trigger the Gazelle as expected to dump another Spinny for extensions next turn. We're going to go ahead and link off into our Sunlight Wolf and trigger our Gazelle in order to send a Jack Jaguar, which will return the Sunlight Wolf in the grave to special summon to the zone the Sunlight Wolf points to, and we get back an Ash for potential blocking next turn. Now we're going to go into Splash Mage since we don't have Promethean Princess in our extra deck. There's no consequence in locking ourselves into Cyber's monsters. And then we're going to go ahead and link off into an access code talker here, opting to keep our Sunlight Wolf in the extra monster zone instead of opting to co-link the access code talker with the transcode talker. So this is unfortunate because, again, once I pop a card on the field, it will trigger, a fire card, which is all they have on their field. It will trigger the Raging Phoenix, and this is the synergy you get with the Promethean Princess. So we don't have any of this, which is unfortunate. So you see me opt to pop the Gazelle first so that they would see if they would trigger their Phoenix, so that the Phoenix only gets 1500 extra attack off of the Gazelle. And if I pop the Balinks, they can just protect whatever I attack over with the Balinks, so I wanted to leave that on field for now. Sure enough, they do take the bait and they activate their Raging Phoenix right away, and it goes up to 43 attack. Now we can pop the Raging Phoenix now that it's come back and go battle phase and clear off the opponent's field. And unless they top deck something good, we have them dead to rights, right? And we even have the Ash Blossom in hand as the interruption if they top deck a Circle or something like that. They need to top deck a Salamangreat monster in order to play. And they do. So second lucky point there. They had all the extension last turn to perfectly play through my board, and now they top deck the monster needed in order to continue extending. We're once again going to block the field spell to prevent the relink and further extension plays from the opponent. Not that they really have anything if they wanted to go. I mean, if they play 3 Raging Phoenix, they could do some work. But because the monster is special summoned to my field off of the Weasel, going back into the deck, I think it was the Weasel, right? Yeah, Weasel. It does trigger the Promethean Princess, which instantly takes out my access code talker. So there's a good point as to why I probably should have kept the transcode talker on the field to prevent them from being targeted if I would have linked off these two instead. So the transcode and the access code would not be able to be targeted by Princess. So I kind of shot myself in the foot there a little bit. And because they pop one of their cards, they're able to trigger their Raging Phoenix in the graveyard once again. So you can just see how crazy this combination is to recycle it. And now they're going to be able to get Princess extensions, but they opted not to do that, I guess. Instead, they go into Raging Phoenix. Since they don't have Field Spell, they're forced to use their Princess. And off Raging Phoenix, they search the Field Spell. So it slowed them down enough that they weren't searching another extender. But yeah, they opt to go into Raging Phoenix yet again. So they do indeed play 3 copies. I don't know what the point of that was, other than to get extra Raging Phoenixes in the graveyard. But they don't do any other extension plays here. And I save my Sunlight Wolf with the Balinks in the graveyard. Now at this point, my timer is still kind of low, so I have to be very careful. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to relink the Sunlight Wolf and use the ability of Weasel in the graveyard in order to special summon a monster to the opponent's side of the field. Now again, my timer was really low, so I wasn't really thinking, but I trigger the Princess off of this, which is good because I'm going for an Underworld Goddess play here. I summon the Salamangreat of Fire, again knowing that they're going to get a search, but I don't really care because I'm trying to set up a board that should do enough to stop them, because Underworld Goddess will stop the Promethean Princess from bringing it back from the graveyard, I believe, as well as the Raging Phoenix from triggering in the graveyard. So we're going to normal summon Effect Veiler and link off the opponent's activated Raging Phoenix that has the boosted attack into Underworld Goddess to negate the whole board. And they're going to trigger their Gazelle, which is probably a misplay because Chainlink 2 will resolve first in summoning the Gazelle, and then Underworld Goddess will negate everything, and then the Gazelle is negated now. So we go battle phase, they save my Fire with their Balinks, and I just pass turn. They need to link off if they want to free up zones for the Promethean Princess, and they do indeed link off. They're going to go into Pyro Phoenix, so they just have all the ultra rares. These builds don't usually play Access Code Talker, so you can kind of see how beneficial this Underworld Goddess is in this particular matchup when they don't have something to beat over it directly. They're going to relink off their Pyro Phoenix to wipe my board, but because it doesn't target, my Underworld Goddess will actually stay on the field. They will wipe out the access code they brought back. Then they just crash because I think they realize there's nothing they can really do here. But oh no, they crashed to trigger the Raging Phoenix. Sorry, because they triggered it last turn, so they can still trigger it this turn. But Underworld Goddess will use the ability to negate the effect of a card in the graveyard. And just like that, we're able to stop the opponent, wiping out their board. They don't have any other extension plays. On 900 life, we're able to take that match with the Underworld Goddess. So misplays on both sides for sure. But when the timer is getting down there, because you're trying to play around all the different interruptions, like in the graveyard, what was triggering after destruction, etc., it's a lot to think through. But in the end, the Underworld Goddess ended up clutching it out. And you just saw how insane the Promethean Princess into Raging Phoenix cycle was going. I'm thinking like they're on Sky Striker going second with like Lightning Storms, Dusters, Raigekis, evenly matched, etc. They have no interruptions, so yeah, I'm even more thinking like, yeah, they just have board breakers. We're gonna go Lady Debug into the Balinks, and this is what I was talking about in the last match, where if you use this as your starter, it won't trigger the Gazelle, even though you search Gazelle with it. You have to, if you don't have any other way to get a Salamangreat in the graveyard, use the field spell and use your relink off of the field spell in order to summon Balinks with its own material to trigger the Gazelle. So we are forced to dump the Spinny here as another extension play, and all I can really go for here is transcode into Decode Talker Heat Soul, of which you need one more extender in order to link this off. So that's why I opted to dump the Spinny so I can get that back on the field. Once we bring back the transcode, or bring out the transcode, we bring back the Splash Mage, link off the brought back Gazelle and the the brought back Splash Mage and the Gazelle in order to bring out the Heat Soul. We draw a card. So I don't know what we drew there. What did we draw? A Gazelle? Okay, that's not bad, but you know, we didn't draw any other hand traps. We still just have one interruption in Effect Veiler. And on the opponent's draw phase, I'm going to trigger the Heat Soul again, so I'm down to 6,000 life, draw into Will. Now, the opponent, you know, they're not noobs. They're, you know, these are like Diamond Master opponents. They start off with a Thrust for, I think that's Ultra, or sorry, Greater Polymerization, which means their card can't be destroyed by card effects, and it inflicts piercing battle damage. Not that we care about that effect. I'm going to stop their normal summon, Indulge Dark Lord, and just put them on Go Ahead Infusion, and I'll just deal with your board after. Hopefully I don't get OTK'd. But they have Banishment of the Dark Lords, so they bring one to the hand and then use the Greater Polymerization for the first Dark Lord to wipe out my board. I save my Sanctuary off the Balinks there, but my other two cards that were co-linked, so they were untargetable, but it doesn't matter because this card just destroys them. It doesn't target. And they have the influence of this card can't be destroyed. So we're in a little bit of trouble, but they do have the effect. I don't know why they didn't use it during... Oh, you can only use one of the following effects. So they already used the destruction effect, so during my turn they can use the quick effect main phase. And this is actually good. I want them to use this because it will trigger my talent. So I go through a bunch of extension plays, and on the summon of Sunlight Wolf here, they're going to trigger the first Dark Lord to get a bunch of special summons out. And I'm like, this is perfect because this will allow me to talents take and then link into the Underworld Goddess yet again. So when you're not Cybers locked, when you're not Fire locked, this is really nice to pull off. So we're going to go ahead and continue extending here. Use talents to take the first Dark Lord and link off, I think that was Superbia, yeah, in order to get two of their monsters off the field for the Underworld Goddess link. And now between the Jack and the Underworld Goddess, we can wipe out their board, leaving them with a single card in hand. Underworld Goddess will just negate the board, not that that matters, but we're going to be able to wipe out the opponent's board. Okay, nope, they opt to use this Dark Lord in order to save their Indulged, and that's fine. We're going to bring back out the Falco for the Jack Jaguar, and I guess put the opponent on top deck the out here. I bet you they thought that first Dark Lord was going to just do all the work for them, but yeah, triple Tactics talent ended up, or I didn't even need the Tactics talent, right? I could have just gone straight into Underworld Goddess, cleaned up the field for us. So we're going to go ahead and do a bunch of extensions here, and the opponent just ends up scooping, not wanting to see the rest. But yeah, we could have gone into the access code, link into a link 2, go into access code, and finish off the game. And just like that, Budget Salamangreat out here doing some work.